Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our newest edition of Shots of Legends. Today we bring you this very special and iconic guest from London. Linzy is a director, producer, editor, and she will be talking about her perspective, her plans for the next few years. She'll be talking about the jobs, the work she has done, and during the pandemic, and what she's willing to do in the next few years. Liz used to work as a production manager for Disney, and she will be sharing a little bit about the experiences she had at that time. So stay tuned into our chat and don't forget to follow us on our social media.
Hi.
Hello, Linzy. How are you?
I'm really well. It's a beautiful day in London.
Okay.
The sun is shining.
Yeah, it is Yeah, it's freezing here in Mozambique right now.
You're joking.
No, I'm not.
Oh, really?
But it's a good weather though.
It's freezing, but it's good weather. You like it when it's cold.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to to run from the heat, and because we have this opportunity to be in the house with the family, watch some adventures, etc., some movies. It's a good weather to be together, to join with family and enjoy the moments.
Okay, well, yeah. That's it. Enjoy life, no matter what the weather. I thought it was always hot in Mozambique. That shows my ignorance.
Have you been here? No.
No, but my aunt taught in Mozambique. She was a teacher in Mozambique. This, I think, was in my lifetime. When she was in her 40s, I think she taught in a school, maybe even in her 30s. She taught in a school in Mozambique for a long time.
So where was she working here?
Do I know where? No, I don't know where. I just know that it was in Mozambique for maybe a year or two.
Yeah, but it's a great pleasure to have you here. I was going to first ask you about the film industry in London. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So the film industry in London. So London is a global city. It's a really cosmopolitan global city. So in London itself, you feel like you're part of the world. But the British film industry isn't part of the world. It's quite a closed industry. And people in Britain, they make films just for British audiences. And films that do well in the cinema in the UK, they don't essentially do well in the rest of the world. We have our own celebrities, which are only famous in Britain. We have British actors that aren't international, and we make films for just this audience. And adults in Great Britain only buy 2 cinema tickets a year on average. So it's not a big market. So that means that it's not a thriving industry. Economically though, it's one of the largest. It was proven to be one of the biggest imports and exports is film, and the film industry was considered to be an essential industry during the pandemic. But that aside, our budgets tend to be 5 million is quite a lot of money in the UK, which is very low budget internationally. Obviously, we have Harry Potter, 75 million, and we have James Bond. But Harry Potter does well internationally. James Bond only does well in the UK. And the rest of the world aren't that interested in James Bond. So but these are huge budget films. But then most cinema is about 5 million, 1 million to 5 million, which is all very low budget in global standards. But then we've got the big studios. We've got Warner Brothers Studio, and we've got lots of big studios. We've got Shepperton Studios. We've got Pinewood, which is Warner Brothers now. We've got Elstree. We've got lots of big film studios. And so a lot of the international filmmakers, a lot of the big studios, they come and use our studios because we've got one of the biggest water tanks. So then that's another industry. And what a lot of people say is that the industry is really not just one industry, it's really two I'd say maybe 2 or 3 industries, which are completely separate from each other. So you've got the big studio films, and the people that work on these big studio films, they tend to just work on the big studio films. And then we've got lots of independent films. And that's a whole separate industry, because people's fees are so different and people's lifestyles are so different, and the hours people work and the days people work are different. So and they're run completely differently. So I'd say that there's more than one film industry. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does actually. But do you think about looking to what you said now? Do you think you have a good structure, good platform to propose your ideas and make things happen there?
So people say that it's harder in the UK than it is. I've not lived in America. Well, I did when I was 4, I lived in America, but I've not lived in America as an adult, and I've not pitched films in America, and I've not pitched films internationally. So I only know what my own experience is, and other people tell me that it's easier in other countries, that people are more receptive. And I found when we've had global pitching that actually people in other countries are more receptive. And that's when it comes to sales agents, when it comes to distributors, when it comes to studios, that internationally people are more interested in you. Whereas in Great Britain, where there isn't a lot of money, people are only really interested in what is secure, and you need to have known and established actors and known and established people in your project for anyone to take any interest, because people are so afraid to take any risk because people don't have a lot of money to risk. So I think that makes it more difficult. But saying that, we do have an industry, and I haven't stopped working. And even during the first pandemic, I was working as a screenwriter during the first pandemic, and then I went into production between the 2 lockdowns, the first lockdown, not pandemic, there's one pandemic, there's several lockdowns. The first lockdown, I was working as a screenwriter during that, and then I went into production between the 2 lockdowns, and I kept working because we were then declared an essential industry. We had safety protocols in place that we could continue to make films after that. So yes, and I haven't stopped working. So there's films, and it's going mad. Like, everyone's making films, everyone's commissioning films. It's really blowing up, and there's a lot going on, and it's an exciting time. So there's, so one thing, it's difficult, but it's obviously not impossible.
So when you look yourself 5 years from now, do you think London is a good place to be and to settle and organize your path, your career being there? Do you think it's a good place to
I am very settled in London. My family are in Britain. They're in the UK. They're not that far away. I've got lots of friends in London. There's a lot of reason why I'm quite settled here, and I love London. I find it a really vibey, a really exciting place. So I think it's good, and obviously I've got lots of contacts in London, and it's where I have my roots and my connections. So for me, London is a great place to be, and it's a great place for my career. But I have many projects which are international. And certainly I dream to set films all over the world and to travel the world with my films. So I don't think that I feel like I'm a global citizen of the world. I don't feel like I'm just trapped in this one city.
No, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. When I think of London, when I think about London, I actually remember that one of the best movies that have been recorded there, London Has Fallen, by Gerard Butler, and Morgan Freeman. So I think
did you like it?
I love that movie. I love that movie.
It's
a kind of, you see those masterpieces when you, I actually watched that movie maybe 4 to 5 times. I must confess that, because I love the idea when you see Gerard Butler facing that those challenges to protect the president, etc. So it's amazing, that scenario.
Oh, that's really interesting. You see, so I wasn't a fan of that film. I hope you don't hate me.
No problem.
I I didn't love it. In fact, I wouldn't say I even liked it. Sorry.
But why?
Jerry.
Can you share? Why
Can
do
I
you feel of
justify? I think the script for me had a lot of holes. I didn't think the dialogue was very good.
that?
There were
Okay.
really big, well-known actors, and I didn't think they acted well. I thought it must have been very rushed.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me, it didn't work as a film.
Okay.
It was just a lot of big names and some kind of okay visual effects, not particularly great visual effects, but some almost okay visual effects. And yeah, it was just a bit ridiculous, I thought, to be honest. So no, just yeah, for me, it didn't cater to my tastes.
Yeah, that's understandable.
So I
Yeah.
feel very bad, but I'm really glad that there are people that loved it. That's
Yeah.
really good. That's really good to hear. So
Yeah.
so you know, and that just shows how subjective filmmaking is.
Yeah.
You know, so one person can love something, you watched it 45 times, and me, I couldn't even watch the whole way through because I thought it was, I wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it's the subjective. I think the movies give us this kind of feelings, when you find 10 people hating it, you find just one people loving it, and then you find those people that are in the middle, yeah. I think it's interesting because I was talking with the friend of mine who doesn't love Titanic at all. Say like, it's no kind of movie that I love, but well, I'm a fan of Titanic. I think James Cameron made something interesting there, but I actually know a couple of people that are not very lovers of that movie. But well, I think that's the thing. As you say, some people love, some people will hate.
That's wonderful, and that's really it's brilliant, and it means that if you ever get a bad review, you shouldn't feel bad because it's just one person's opinion, and Sergio is gonna love it.
Yeah. But Linzy, tell me about something. You say that during the pandemic you used to work as a screenwriter. I think you still do. I was going to ask you about how is it going as a screenwriter? Just talking about that phase, that part of your life.
So I mean, I've only got a few commissions as a screenwriter at the moment.
Yeah.
So mostly this year I've been working as a first assistant director, which is interesting. I produced one film at the beginning of the year, and then I didn't get much time on set, and I wanted to be on set and not stuck doing production. So I started working more as a first assistant director, and I've been doing that all year.
Yeah.
And I'm about to write and direct another short film for a lady that Andrea Aviat, she is a survivor of an abusive relationship, and she's written books about it, and she's a motivational speaker. And we collaborated, so I wrote for her a short film, a micro short film, so moments from her life, in a very short film, because she didn't have a big budget for the film, so we did it on a very small scale, and that's done very, very well. It's won 6 awards at festivals.
That's amazing.
It's nominated for 5. It was selected, I think, for 16 or festivals, and it's a finalist. It's almost won an award or been a finalist or nominated in every festival that it's been selected. So it's doing really well. So we're going to do a longer film, again, kind of a little bit based on her life, but if she didn't have hope, if she didn't get out of that relationship. So I'm going to be writing that with her. So that's going to be another screenwriting, and I've just written another short film for a producer in Prague that I'm going to be working with at the end of the end of next month. We're not yet in September, are we? We're nearly in September, very nearly in September. At the end of September, I'm going to, then I'll be directing a short film that I wrote. And then I've got another film that I've written, and I'm producing another feature film at the end of this year, and another short film. So I haven't worked as much as a screenwriter this year, But I do really love writing and directing. I mean, that's so my passion is writing and directing, but I can't financially survive full time yet as a writer director. I do diversify, but I find that it helps me to grow as a filmmaker, and I always feel like I'm learning. I feel like I'm growing my network, my contacts are expanding, and I'm developing my skills, and I'm learning from others. So I think that it's all sort of, you know, part of the journey. And I'm glad that I do diversify, because it gives me another perspective, and it means that my communication skills are finely tuned, because I know what the cinematographer does, I know what the assistant director does, I know what the producers do, I know, you know, what everybody does, because I've done their work. So, and I, you know, I know what the editor does. So, you know, so I can communicate with every member of the team, because I've done their job too.
Yeah, can you share the flavor, the taste of writing something? Because it's amazing the fact that you have the ability of creating something new. Because sometimes many scripts we have fictional, we have scientific fictions. Can you share the process of creating some ideas, creating an idea and turning it into script? How does it work? How does it sound like to put something, to take something out from your mind and turn it into reality? I think it's amazing, the process of creating and conceiving an idea, and to have this, to turn it into a movie, into a film. Can you share a little bit about this?
Are you a writer, Sergio?
Yeah, I usually write. I have to.
Yeah, I could feel that. You obviously have a passion for it.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, if you describe something, so you describe in a screenplay, you describe what you see and what you hear.
Yeah.
You know, so it's as simple as that. You imagine something and you describe what you see and what you hear, and that is screenwriting.
Yeah.
That's it. So for me, my process is I am story driven as a screenwriter.
Okay.
And I usually I plan exactly what's going to happen scene by scene.
Yeah.
And then I get it written. And then you never dry. There's never a moment you don't know where it's going, because you always know where it's going. And that's how that's my process as a screenwriter. But I you know, there have been other projects where it's been devised, and also what I've done quite a lot of is biopics, writing true stories. And then it's wonderful because you're researching, and you know, it's all there, and so you're researching and you're imagining what's happening at the same time. So, and that's very exciting as a screenwriter, to write a true story, and these are things that you couldn't possibly imagine. You wouldn't imagine. I mean, it's just not the way you would imagine it, that it's actually happened to someone.
Yeah. No, it's in the well. Now I would like to know a little bit more about this different chapter. I know you're a producer, you are a director and editor, but I would like to talk now about the process of directing the movie. Can you share your knowledge, looking to the fact that you need to manage the crew, you need to make things happen? How does it work? What does it mean to be a director?
So, I mean, so there are so many different approaches, and there are so many different people. For me as a director, I studied acting. So it's very much a collaboration between myself and the rest of the team, including the actors.
Yeah.
So I see myself as a kind of team leader, a guide, or team guide of a film. So I have a vision, and I'm trying to share my vision with every member of the team in their language, in their way of seeing things. And so finding out how they receive information and communicating it in the best way to each person in the team that's going to make the film, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's all about the communication, sharing the vision, inspiring, and I think being positive and being proactive and adapting. I don't know, somebody, and I don't know who it was, maybe it was Stanley Kubrick, but some director said famously, the best director, maybe it was Hitchcock, the best directors never compromise. I think that's terrible advice.
No, that's
to anyone directing. Terrible advice. Always compromise, always adapt, because otherwise you shouldn't be working professionally, because you're very difficult to work with, and you're creating a nightmare for everyone in your team, because it's never going to be, you know, it's right to work hard and to try to accomplish your vision, but you have to adapt and you have to be flexible and you have to deal with the circumstances, because you are constantly going to be coping with different situations. So maybe I'm not one of the best directors, but I will compromise, I will adapt, and I will get it made.
Yeah, you know, lately I've been watching some debates about James Gunn. A couple of people love the way he directs the movies, like films like Guardians of the Galaxy and different movies. And I think it's interesting when you see the crew, when you see the actors and the crew analyzing positively the way a director deals with them, because I think one of the things that a director must have is I think you need to be accessible to the crew, to the people, to the team, because I think if you, that's why you were saying, you were talking about information, about being as simple as possible. Exactly, collaboration. I think it's interesting, but is that easy to be simple, to be humble, to be accessible?
I think some people find it more difficult than others. I think that I will always be humble and accessible and approachable. I think because I'm small in frame and quite smiley, I think people will always find me approachable and accessible. But some people, it's just not their demure, you know, it's just not how they come across. It's not the way they present themselves. It's just not their way of being. And then they have to have producers and assistant directors that are approachable. Because I think everyone has a right to tell a story, and everyone has the right to share that story and to create that vision. I think everyone has the right to do that, and everyone should, and that opportunity should be provided to more people. So, you know, therefore, I think everyone should be able to direct a film in their lives. And obviously, they just need to have the right team around them to make that accomplishable. So the director is probably the least important role in a film. Probably the runner is in fact more important. They're now called production assistants, but that role, the person getting the teas and coffees and making sure that people have got water on set, is probably more important to the film than the director, really, because once the director has shared the vision, which hopefully is very clear in the script, if everyone's read the script and the vision is clear and the storyboards are clear and the mood boards are clear and everybody has a grasp already of the film, then, you know, it should run itself, really, and the director is just the spearhead, just like the team leader, team guide, as I say, and no more important than the production assistant.
So, have you ever faced some kind of trouble during the production? I mean, on set with screenwriter. I've been told that it's normal to find this kind of disagreement between a director and a screenwriter.
So the screenwriters, I've not had.
Have you ever faced something like this?
Yeah. I think other than when the so sometimes the screenwriter's the executive producer or the producer, but other than in those circumstances, I've worked with a lot of writer directors. So often the screenwriter and the director have been one and the same person, so they haven't argued with themselves as much, though some of them have been a bit crazy, so maybe they have been arguing with themselves. But you know, sometimes the money is the writer, but yeah, so whenever there's a creative disagreement, obviously I would try and, you know, say I can understand it from your point of view.
Yeah.
And I try to just remind people that it is subjective and it is their point of view. And then obviously we've got the audience's point of view.
Mm.
And obviously at the end of the day, sadly, it does usually come down to the money, and the whoever raised the most money or has the biggest shareholder in the project, they will be the decision maker, whether that is the executive producer, whether that is the screenwriter, whether that is the director. Whoever is the biggest stakeholder, they get the final say.
So I know that you used to work for Disney as a
Yes, I
production,
have
yeah,
worked.
as a production manager. Can you
Yes.
share a little bit about the experience
Yes.
you had at that time?
Yes, so it was for the ad team. So it was in the Hammersmith studios, the head office in Hammersmith.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a really warm, friendly company. They had really good canteen and good food. It's Hammersmith, you know, it's a nice part of London. The director of their campaign had a wonderful sense of humor, and he was a really good director. I think everyone felt they could approach him and they felt motivated and inspired by him. You know, he was very, very good in, I think, with people, very popular and very approachable. And, you know, even I felt like part of the team. I felt listened to, I felt respected. So he really did do that. And he was very young, Matthew, just same age as me. He'd worked a lot in Japan as a director of commercials, and he was, you know, one of their, obviously his dream was film, you know, and he'd love to make films, and he hadn't worked in films, only in commercials. But obviously the money that you earn making commercials compared to the money that you earn in films, commercials, you earn a lot more money. So it would be hard if you get used to that lifestyle and you develop overheads to then work in film, where you've got to graft and you've got to prove your worth, you know, again. So I guess the transition, it would be very hard. But he was also a stand-up comedian, so he was very funny and entertaining. I think that, you know, obviously you get used to privileges,
yeah,
if you're a big studio. And I think that maybe they could, I don't know, it's difficult to, you know, because a franchise or, you know, an organization like that, obviously they work in a certain way, and they have a lot of administration and a lot of processes. And obviously these processes, they create a lot of employment, but they're also very expensive. So, you know, obviously you don't have that in an independent film. You have a shorter process and less people and less paperwork. But I learned a lot of good habits through those processes as well. Certainly in terms of accounting, you know, obviously in terms of making sure that everyone gets paid and how you manage your accounts, because it's so organized. You know, I think from them I learned to be very articulate and organized in that area, which has made my productions very breezy. Very breezy. But I hope they learned things from me in my independent filmmaking background as well.
No, that's great. I know it's a little bit challenging to be a producer, because you need to actually make the thing happen. You need to run to get the funds. You need to find partnerships to so that movie can be turned into reality. What are the biggest challenges you find when you
so I
act
think
as a producer?
I think you said the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is raising money. And I have generally worked as a line producer. I've never been the executive producer or the producer that's raised the money. I have tried to raise money for some of my own productions, but I've never done that. But I think I am now learning, and I'm learning from other people. And I think that for the right project, funding is always available, but it's developing a project that others can see potential in. But then you've obviously got your integrity and you've got the films that you really want to make. But I guess the way to do it is to try and get a share in a commercial, accessible, easy to raise money for project, and then use the money that you make to make your dream in integrity projects. Or certainly that's going to be my path now.
Yeah. So we're just going out of time in this conversation. Yes. Actually, it's really amazing and inspiring. But I was going to ask you about this different chapter of your life. You are you work as an editor. I would like to know what are the tasks? What have you been doing as an editor, and how do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What are you willing to achieve, and what are the biggest plans for the next few years?
Okay, so I think editing really helps me as a director. And when so I've only worked generally as an editor when I've directed myself. On a couple of projects I have edited for other people, but generally I've just edited for myself as a director. It's just part of my job. And I think it really helps me because you need to look at the end result. And it really helps to always look at the end results and what you're trying to accomplish. Because then you think, okay, right, I'm going to cut it here. And it sort of really increases the speed. And obviously, I think some of the best directors, Stanley Kubrick, Peter Weber, they were editors first. So I think it really helps to be able to edit. And I think everyone that's a filmmaker should learn to edit, because I think it's such a crucial and critical skill to have as any kind of filmmaker. And it really improves the way that you make films, because you know what you can and can't do, and you should never leave to fix it in post, because an hour on the film set and that could save you 10 hours of post. So get it right on the day. And that's something that you learn when you're having to try and fix your own mistakes. So I do think it's really important. In the next 5 years, I hope to focus more on writing and directing. So now I've got 4 projects actually this year, which I'm going to be working as a writer director, and 2 that I'm working as a producer, and then that'll take me to the end of the year. But I think all of these things are important. And I think that I hope to be making my own films in the next 5 years, to be making the films that I really want to make. And not just making films that people hire me to make, but maybe, taking the initiative, having a project that I really am passionate about, getting the funding for it, making that film. I hope that I'm doing that. And I also, building the teams. And I hope that I, have these amazing people that I have right now in my life. I'd like to see all of them progressing in their career, and hopefully we all grow together to make bigger and better films.
That's wonderful to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah. So are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. So Linzy, it was a very big pleasure to have you here. It was amazing, and we felt the privilege to be able to chat with you. We hope to have you here in the next episodes of Chats of Legends.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for your availability and for granting us this pleasure.
Thank you. Take care. Have a lovely evening or morning.
What
time is it?
Yeah.
What time is it?
Now it's about 7 to 8 here in Mozambique.
In the evening?
Yeah, evening, yes.
Oh, okay. You're just an hour ahead.
Yeah, 1 hour ahead. Yes, 1 hour ahead.
Okay, well, have a lovely evening.
Yeah, you too, Linzy. You too. It was a pleasure to have you there. Today we had this magnificent opportunity to learn a little bit more about the process of directing the movie, the process of producing the movie, and the process of editing the movie. And we had the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the path of Linzy and what she's been doing and what she's willing to do in the next few years. It was a pleasure to have you there. We hope to have you here in the next episodes of Chats with Legends. See you in the next episodes.